Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Addicted to Success podcast. I am here today with one of my great friends. We're just hanging out a couple days back for Preston and Alexi's wedding. This is Jake Ducey. He is an inspirational speaker. He's written 3 books now. He's really rocking the books, and he's young too. How old are you, Jake?
24.
24. Oh my God. Seriously, 24 years old. You already released 3 books. I know you've been mentored by Jack Canfield, and you've done so well at such a young age. So I just want to commend you first and foremost for that. I'm 29. You're making me feel like I need to run a little bit faster. But we all know it's a patience game. We were just talking about the patience game before. So, dude, I'm just so happy to have you on here. I'm excited about your new book, Profit from Happiness. Your last book was Purpose Principles. And I know that book was a game changer. A lot of people I speak to have been shifted and have transformed just after reading that book and then applying what you teach in that book to their lives. So Profit from Happiness apparently is the next best thing too. So I remember reading some of the reviews and they were just so positive, dude. So congratulations on your new book.
Joel, thanks, man. Always, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problems, man. No problems.
Before we start, for everyone listening, Joel is the epitome of, addicted to success. He's built $1 million business, right? It's something everyone wants, right, to grow these businesses. The valuation of Joel's business in a couple years will be 3, 5, 10, 15. It's just going to keep growing. 100 million people on the website. But he is the epitome of serving others and letting other people, right? He lets myself come on, all these other people he gives an opportunity to share their messages, to share their work. So I just want to commend Joel and everyone listening that he's the perfect example of how to grow a multi-million-dollar business and do it in such an amazing way.
Thank you, man. You flipped the script on me on that one. I love it. No, thank you, man. I really appreciate you as a friend and also as someone in the industry that also I could say comes from a place of service. I know your book Profit from Happiness, the unity of wealth, work, and personal fulfillment. I mean, that's a mature thing to talk about. And you're 24 years old, but you really hone in on what it means to live with fulfillment and doing it in a way where you serve others as well. So tell us, man, what's the idea behind this book? And what can we expect from it? What is the one thing that you want people to take away from this book while reading it or after they've read it?
Well, Justine Musk, who is Elon Musk's ex-wife, one time she was asked, well, I want to be a billionaire. Someone said, will I become one? And she said, I don't know, but you're asking the wrong question entirely. She said, your question should be, where can you fill a need in the world that's worth that much? She said that the world doesn't care what you want. It doesn't care about your conscious goal, right? That's, I want $1 million, I want $1 billion, I want this, I want that, right? And so many of us listening we are goal-oriented people. Yeah. And she said, you're asking the wrong question entirely. What you need to do is figure out where you can supply that type of need and get so focused on the service and what you can offer that the natural byproduct that is going to be more money than you can even imagine because you're lost in the service. It's called service for a reason. Commercial service is called service because the more you serve someone, the more money you will make. So the book is about being of more and more and more value to those around us. And I cite that story, and I wrote the book because it was at one specific Fortune 100 company that paid me a lot of money to do a 30-minute talk. And they gave me a tour of the facility beforehand. And this is 75,000 employees, humongous, all across the world. And when they gave me the tour, they said, we were walking by one of the teams, and they said, that's our MVP for this team. But by the way, you're here because he's also the reason you're here because of him. He's also the most dysfunctional. He's really hard to work with.
Oof.
So I said, but you awarded him the MVP? And they said, yeah, well, he works really hard. And I said, but you're paying me money to come out here because he's a really bad leader. Yeah. We were hoping you could fix that. And it struck
Wow.
me as the weirdest thing ever how we get so caught up in our hours worked and performing that we lose touch of what Jim Rohn said is you're not paid for your time. You're paid for the value that you bring. And I think one of the biggest things companies today are missing, 75% of Americans say they're actively disengaged from their jobs. The U.S. economy absorbs $550 billion loss from productivity loss every year due to people being disengaged. And that's because we've lost touch with our ability to legitimately be leaders and to give and to connect. And I think that value is so lost. And I think that is the next step in entrepreneurs that want to be great. And that's why I acknowledge you at the beginning, because I think though you don't run this company with hundreds of employees, you're a clear example of that to all of your associates and people in the industry by how you operate. And so I thought the book was, we've been looking at goals the wrong way. It's about who you can become and what you have to offer and value.
Wow. Yes. Yes, 100%. You know, it's interesting. You know, I've interviewed hundreds of successful people, and this just continues to be a thing that's brought up in the way of how important it is to give back, how important it is to come from a place of service. So, and I believe every human being wants to have some form of value that they can deliver to the world. What would you tell somebody that just is like, I want to serve, but I don't know how? Where would they start?
Well, it depends what part of their life they're in, right? If you have a big business, right? I mean, obvious ways would be you could give 2%, 5%, 10% of your income. If we're looking at tangibly, right, though, in our day-to-day life, I think it's flipping our goal around, right? If you want to make $1 million, it's just getting so invested in the service. Money is the cause, or service is the cause. Service is the cause. Money is the effect. Money is governed by cause and effect. The more you serve, the more you can grow. So if you're in a 9-to-5, right, and you're listening to this because you like the inspiration from Joel and you have ambitions of a larger life than you're living, right? One way you can begin right now is whether you're a CEO or whether you're at the bottom of the totem pole, quote unquote, so to speak, in your company, to start tomorrow to be the MVE, the most valuable energy, right? Draymond Green is the most valuable energy to the Warriors, right? To the team that almost won the championship last year. He's not the best player, but everyone notices when he's gone because he's the emotional leader. So I think where you can begin in a 9-to-5 position is to become that irreplaceable energy, to stop, to smile, to engage with people in an authentic way and say, hey, how are you doing? Right? Because Susie hasn't been performing because her 14-year-old son's thinking about committing suicide. The other managers are just mad at Susie. Susie, you're not being productive. You're not being this. Well, let's hire a motivational speaker. And no one stops and engages and listens.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that listening and engaging in those ways can automatically make you just a better leader, no matter where you are. When I interviewed, I met Martin Luther King's lawyer, who was his lawyer for 10 or 15 years. And right, he's out of the context of commercial entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, he was an entrepreneur. He had a vision and he brought millions of people together for it. And I said, what made Martin Martin? I met his lawyer and I was giving a speech. And after my speech, she invited me in the town car I spent a whole afternoon with her. And she said the reason he was able to get millions of people towards his movement was because he listened. And I expected her to say his booming charisma and his voice. And I was like, no, that's boring. That's not romantic. And she said, no, he would listen. And so people are willing to die for his cause. And I think when we can allow others to feel seen and valued in really small ways, then that's one way, obviously, you can make a difference in the next 5 hours or in the next hour after you turn this off. And of course, the big one is to really just, for our business and our ambitions in life, is to really just get clear on the focus, which obviously, Joel is about impacting 1 billion people's lives. right? You've built $1 million business, but your focus isn't on how to make it 1.2 million. It's how do I reach this many people's lives? So just that psychological shift, and then remembering the everyday encounters, that the opportunities that we have to connect with people in authentic ways. Like, we were at the grocery store the other day, and the woman, it was Mother's Day or Father's Day, I forget, and her parents were dead. She was the grocery woman. And Ashley, my girlfriend, just stopped and talked to her, and her parents weren't alive anymore. And I forget which, maybe it was Father's Day. And she came in later that day and said, "Hey, I was just letting you know I was thinking about you." And the woman tells me every time, "Ashley made my day. I felt so good." Like, you don't know. Some people literally go home alone and they don't have anyone that cares about them because their family's dead, right? Like, that engagement is really valuable.
Wow. Yeah. You know, I remember you and I were having a conversation. I was hanging out at your house probably 4 months ago, and you were sharing a story with me. One of your friends, something horrific had happened to her partner. And he was in another part of the world. He wasn't supposed to be there, or he was, but he was about to leave, and he was a victim of a terrorist attack. And I remember you telling me you did the math on like the chances of, I can't remember exactly how you explained it.
Well, there was 70, I think there was it was either 39 or 79 million people in Belgium, just for you listening.
Yeah.
My best friend's sister, her boyfriend studies abroad, or did, in Belgium 4 months out of the year. And he was there when the terrorist attacks happened and 29 people died in the train bombings. And he was one of the 29 out of the 39 or 49 or whatever million people live in Belgium. And the percentage was like 0.000, was like 601% chance of him dying. I did the math. And he died.
Yeah.
Right? And everyone listening is such A-type personalities. We're so focused on visions, and we're such great achievers that it's really easy to neglect everything else in our life. Right? We're working, right? A lot of us are working to create great income for freedom, but we neglect all the freedom that we have now and the opportunity to connect and engage. And it was 0.00001, and he's not alive anymore.
Yeah, that's wild, mate. That's absolutely wild. Just to think that your life could just be over like that, and the chances of it happening in that way, but it still happens. So that's why you gotta live life to the fullest, man. That's why you need to focus on the things that matter most. And what that is like, I love the name of your book, which is Profit from Happiness. You know, not profit from making a ton of money, not profit from ripping people off or anything like that, which a lot of people are doing. It's profit from happiness. So how do we, because I know, and when you look at it like that, if you focus just on happiness, what happens is the conversation around money becomes like the elephant in the room. It's like it's there, and like no one wants to talk about it because they want to sound like, it's all about happiness, it's all about fulfillment, it's all about giving back. But really, money is a very important part of living as well. How do we double our income? Because I heard you say this before. It was in your, I think it was on the book or in the title. It was somewhere in the book where it said double your income without doubling your work hours. And I think that'd be a huge thing for so many people to be able to do, because they're working overtime and they're not really, their money's not going OT either.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I've 5x'd mine in an extremely short period of time, and it'll be 10x soon, and other people have 1000x'd it. And there's a couple, I think, important distinctions. And if you look at the majority, 95% of people trade their time for money. They're trading their time for money, and it's not something that makes them happy. Obviously, one great thing to do is developing multiple sources of income. I just have my clients literally just make a list. What are possible ways you can create more income? So you're leveraging income, right? So I think that's a great exercise for everyone to do, is just write out other ways to do it. And I think one of the most important distinctions to make, in my opinion, there are so many entrepreneurs that will be going named that pride themselves on 18 hours of work. And they tell you in their content, like, you have to work this much, you have. And I'm the opposite. I don't think that at all. I work less now and I make more money. And one of my coaches and mentors and one of my biggest role models has a multi-million-dollar business. He works 2 hours a day. And so I think the important distinction is you're not paid for your time. You're paid for your value that you bring to that time. And so I think the question to really ask in response to your question, how do we grow our income without increasing our time, is how do you get better and become more valuable? How do you get better and become more valuable? What happens is most people are trading their time for money, and they're so focused on logging the time that they never get better at what they do. And I think the important distinction is how can you get better? And then secondly is to look at your paradigm, to look at your unconscious paradigm around money. Some people's paradigm is to make more money, you have to work 5 times more. That's just not true. If you look at a lot of big income earners, that they don't work 24 hours a day. A lot of times they have other people do most of their work. Yeah. And so I think an important distinction just to begin to ask ourselves is, one, what are multiple sources of income? Every night I wake up, I go to bed, I know I'm making money off of my silver investment. I know it. I can see it. It's an investment that I made. I took my hard-earned money from hours that I meant selling books all last summer on Vans Warped Tour, and I took it and I invested it into silver. And my money's increased by 15 times, right? So looking at different sources of income, but then asking ourselves, where can you get better? Because better is a great word to ask. Better is a wonderful word. So the start is, where can I get better and better and better? And the better I get, the more is the more service I can provide. And the more service I can provide, the more you're going to be valued with time, not immediately. So I think the first thing is to see, be honest with yourself. If you're not making the amount of money that you want to make, is where am I not being as good as I could or should be? And when you get better at that, your skill becomes a leveraged income.
Yeah, far out, mate. How many streams of income do you have at the moment?
6, 5 or 6.
Five or 6. 24 years old, 5 or 6, written 3 books. Come on, there's no excuses. You know what I mean?
And I think it's important to recognize that they all don't happen overnight. Bob Proctor says, Think about multiple sources of income is they have one thing in common. They all flow back to your wallet. But some of them will give you $1 and some of them will give you a lot, right? Yeah. Network marketing, great way to leverage your income. Just looking at ways you can get things off the ground that some of them may only give you $500 a month, but for most people, $500 a month extra would change their life.
Oh yeah, you shift into a completely different lifestyle, man. You get to eat at better restaurants. You get to travel every few months. You can put that money to the side, and that's somewhere else, another destination. I mean, it's covering bills that are relieving the stress from your mind. So, hell yeah, I believe that. So why not open another stream? You know, that's the thing as well with me with Addicted to Success. You know, I'm at 5 streams at the moment, and the thing that you need to be careful of if you're listening right now and you're looking at opening more streams is also, cool. Look at your life and have more experiences and so on if that's what you value, if that's important to you. But be very careful of, because you make more money, don't spend more money on things that are unnecessary. So, you know, I've got friends that they've quadrupled their income in the last year, and so therefore they'll go and spend money on a hotel that's another $100, $200 more, but really the hotel is no different to another one if they just looked around. And so over time, it's really they're getting the same kind of benefit but spending more money. Mm-hmm. Which makes it hard for them to save. So you got to really focus. It's from what I can tell you, what you're saying is really, it's about being smart. It's about being smart about your money, smart about where you put it, how you look at your money too, with your perspectives on money and your beliefs around it.
If you look at my online banking, I have 6 accounts inside. One says fun, one says travel, one says living expenses, one's just as my normal checking, one's my savings. And every dollar I make, percents go into the difference. So I know I have X available for massages and whatever I feel like splurging on. I have this amount saving up for travel when I feel like travel. And I think that there's an Earl Nightingale quote, and he says, most people think they need more money than they do, but they settle for a lot less than they could actually make. And I think it's really significant. And I think an important thing is to map out our priorities of our life and then divide out different accounts based off it and take percents to each of the different things. And then we'll find out that it's actually probably a lot easier for us to create the life than we want. We just generally have one giant checking account that we pull from for everything. And that's like having one energy source and letting people pull from you in every direction. You have to set boundaries and manage it. And it's not budgeting, it's prioritizing and channeling your energy into the things that matter most to you.
Yeah. Now let's talk about what matters most. Your last book, Purpose Principles, did really well. You've got this new book out now. What do you feel you have learned between then and now? Like one of the most powerful things that has come up for you, where if you look back at who you were, Jake Ducey, I think 2 years ago or whatever, a year and a half ago when you launched that book, to where you are now, like what is that most profound thing that came up for you where you look at it and you're like, man, I've grown so much because of this?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a story. The day the Purpose Principles came out, so this was 2015. It was my first major book contract, so I was really nervous, and I built it off a self-published book. I'd become, not essentially, I become a workaholic. I would wake up at 3, I'd go to bed at 11, wake up at 3. I was drinking like 5 cups of caffeine a day.
Oh my God.
I was like really messed up. And that's how probably a lot of people listening to this.
You were addicted to success in a bad way, not in a good way.
And I think a lot of people listening to this can relate to that. And maybe not as extreme as me, but it was the day the Purpose Principles came out, and I had just started. I had never had a girlfriend just because I was so focused on work. And I asked my girlfriend to move in with me. And we had been living together for a few months, and the book came out. Now, I had a list of 487 things to do that day, right? Like, obviously, there's no way I'm going to get any of it, like half of it done. And it was like 7 in the morning. And Ashley, my girlfriend, comes into the room crying. And I'm like, I knew I shouldn't have got a girlfriend. I can't believe she's crying right now. This is the day my book's coming out. Right? Like, that's what A-type personalities do. We're so focused on our results that we neglect everything else.
Wow.
And so I'm like, like trying to like distract her, right? Like, get out of here. I need to work. And she's crying. And I had a call with an author, Mike Dooley, who I think you've interviewed Mike before.
Yeah.
Before my call, and Mike gave me some advice. And he said, look, I was 23 at the time. You're going to get there. Don't neglect everything else to get there. This is a 50-year career. And I could hear his voice in my head. And I had one voice in my head that was like, gosh, she is so selfish. Doesn't she know this is my most important day? And then I could hear Mike's. And Mike's voice said to me, step away from the computer, go over and talk to her, give her a hug. And I decided to, essentially, I botched the whole day. I didn't get anything. I went out with her for the day. We went outside and we talked, and it was some very traumatizing family things that are still, she's healed from them. They're still present in her life. And it was this turning point in our relationship where we grew deeper. And I went to bed that night. You are an idiot, Jake. You worked for 3 years to do this. You invested all your time and money, and then I missed a bunch of interviews. I didn't do a bunch of things I was supposed to do, and I was beating myself up, right? Like, maybe you can relate to this listening to this. You're such a performance-based person that you beat yourself up when the 187 things on your goal list don't get done. And then this other voice, it was like Mike's voice, was like, if your career is ruined because you were finally being a good person, then you should be okay with that. And it was the first time in years that my nervous system actually relaxed, and I actually felt peace, like my breath, like I didn't feel I had to get something done. And it was a turning point in my life. That month, I made the most money at the time I'd ever made in a month. I worked less than I ever had. Opportunities came to me all over the place. And that was when I realized that I was using work to fill a void that I had within myself. I
Yeah.
desired an A-type personality. I desire connection and friendship and relaxation and time to read and time to be outside and exercise. I wasn't doing any of that. And it was this big turning point in my life where I realized I needed to build a life and not a career.
Far out. Oh, man, I can relate to that so much. I went through a similar experience. So I love that line there. You had to focus on building a life and not a career. Wow. I mean, relationships, right? Relationships are life. Everything in life is relationships. You have a relationship with everything. So, that's awesome. And Mike has that effect on you too, doesn't he? He says some pretty profound things. It just kind of like sits in and resonates so deep that it sits you. He said something to me one time. He just said, Joel, he said, the cards are so heavily stacked in your favor. It's ridiculous. He's like, the cards in life are just stacked. He's like, everything is perfect. He's like, you have no complaints, no reasons to not go for what you want. It's all there. So, yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Yeah, it would
That's so
change
great.
my whole life. I quit. I was on the grind, just building my speaking career. And as you know, I've been starting to run my own events. And that's when I decided to start building a coaching practice, which has went amazing, but it's been what I really want, to building relationships. And I realized I was on this treadmill. And I think that it's a question that we can all ask ourselves, like, are you building a career, or are you building a life? And
Yeah.
what happens is we end up bald, fat, unhappy, and we're seeing our kids on the weekend, and the kids and the wife and the new dad are living in a house with your money because you're paying them every month, and yeah, you have a lot of money, but you don't have a life anymore.
Yeah.
And you can have it all. You can have a life and an awesome career. And that's what I realized. I thought I had to pick one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one or the other. I heard something recently. I don't know if it might have been Tony Robbins, but he said that like get good at having an integrated life where it's like everything's kind of intertwined and it's holistic. It's not like just one, just the other kind of thing. It's like, yeah, you have it all integrated in a way, and that can take many years to really work out what it is. I think you got to ask yourself some pretty important questions, like what is your definition of success, and getting familiar with your values, and having conversations with your spouse or your partner or your family at that, the kids in your life too, if you have kids, right? Having the important conversations of like, hey, this is where I am. How can we support each other? How can we work with each other? I think, that can lead to, I believe, higher levels of happiness because everybody knows where everyone's at. There's no assumptions and no ridiculous expectations. And you don't feel guilty in the process because everybody's familiar with where they are. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I wrote this new book too because I called it Profit from Happiness because people think you can either have a happy life or financially profitable generally, and I think you can have both. I was just talking to a guy today, probably 55, and he's a friend of mine, and for years he had a multiple six-figure a month, so he was doing between 2 and 3 million a year in real estate for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But he was working himself to the bone. And the shift happened when he had his kids finally. And his daughter was 14, and she said something to him at the dinner table. And he said, "What? Sorry, honey, I didn't hear you." And she said, "It's okay, Daddy, you never listen anyways."
Oh.
And he was like, "Whoa."
Kids.
And so now he makes, $500,000 a year, but he has freedom to enjoy it. And so getting clear, I think, is important.
Yeah.
Get that. Daddy, you never listen anyways.
Hey man, you never know who your greatest teachers are. Sometimes they can be the person right under your nose. I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, awesome. What is your favorite chapter in your book, Profit from Happiness, and why?
Honestly, it's the second chapter. It's called Share a Smile. And I love it because I think that's it's who I am. And I always would think it was so weird. People say, "What advice do you have?" I say, "Wake up in the morning, take a shower, smile the whole time while you shower." And it seems like really weird, but you don't need to wait for something to make you smile, right? Even if you're a salesperson, right, and you're listening and you're saying, "Oh, this is stupid," you're more charming and more persuasive when you're carrying that energy and you're smiling. Frank Bettger, who wrote one of the best-selling sales books ever, How I Raised Myself from Success to Failure in Selling, is one of the greatest insurance salesmen ever, has a whole chapter on smiling. He said he started to double his sales when he started to drive on the way to his sales events, and he would smile the whole way because he said it had this magnetism thing. And it's really me, and I know that it will make everyone smile when they listen to it. It's the symbol of the good life, and you can create that right now. You can make someone smile, right next to you, like you and I are smiling, having this enjoyable experience. And like that's what life is about. That's why we want more money. It's more freedom to smile and enjoy life, and you can do that now. And so I think it's a really cool part of the book. And I wrote that because I was living in Hollywood, and it was like 11 at night, and I was walking home from the gym, and I was like worried about something. I don't know, some stupid stuff about career stuff. And it was I was walking down a dark alleyway, and it was really late, and I was walking on the street because I saw a homeless encampment, and I figured, oh, they're gonna ask me for money, I'll get mugged. And then those really bright headlights, right, that are like blue, they're so bright they should be illegal, is coming at me in one direction from a car. And so I can't see, so I step out on the sidewalk and I see this homeless guy. He's everything, quote unquote, I don't want to be, right, in my narrow confines mind. He's homeless, he's probably broke, he's probably ugly, right? Like all these stupid judgments in my head. And I'm like looking down at the ground, trying not to look at him so he doesn't ask me for money. And I have to step up and look up when I step on the curb. And he's staring there, no teeth in his mouth, smiling at me. And I couldn't help but smile back at him. Like it was just my natural reaction. And it was just a second. And that's all. He just smiled at me. And I walked away, and my whole energy changed. And I realized, like, well, first of all, my judgments to get the second against this guy, I figure he doesn't have anything to give me. But he just changed my whole night. And I think that it's so overlooked, but it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that funny, man? I remember it would have been probably about a month ago. I was on a date with this chick, and we were walking along after dinner, and this homeless man was walking by, and he went, bah! Like he just jumped in front of her and went, bah! Like that, and she screamed and like ran, and and I just kind of like, it's like flight or fight, right? And I was like ready to punch this dude's head in. I didn't know where he came from. I kind of saw him in the corner of my eye, and I realized he was, homeless, and he was challenged financially, or whatever it was that he was going through. And he just was like giggling to himself, walking off. He had this like little like jump in his step, and he was so happy, and he like ran, he turned around and like smiled at us, and I was like, wow, like that's what he wanted, that's what he wanted. And he got a little bit of happiness from that, and like we laughed about it after. It was like infectious, because we were talking about it later, and we're laughing about it. We told other people about it. It was just one of those moments. I mean, you had to be there, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's free, man. It's free. It can happen at any point in time. And I love how you said it's now. You can have that now. You have to choose where your emotion live at any point in time. That's your decision.
Amen. You can do it on your sales calls, right? If you're listening and you sell by the phone, you can do it you can smile the whole time while you're on your sales calls. They've done studies where people receive information better through others through the telephone when they're smiling. You can do it on your sales calls. You can do it at work tomorrow. You can do it on your drive. It'll improve everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. For sure. Neurologically, it changes, doesn't it? Like you release endorphins when you smile.
Yeah, I say in the book, endorphins aren't biased. They don't care if you're smiling for a reason or not. I'm saying they're not biased. Like, right? They're not like, wait, you're not smiling because anything good happened to you. We're not going to release in your brain and make you feel good. They don't care. They just want you to smile. And they did a study at Berkeley where they took clinically depressed patients and had them look in the mirror and smile at themselves for like 30 or 40 minutes every day. And the improvements were like 75% better on average, just from looking at themselves and smiling. So it's like you're changing your physiology. You're starting to fire everything that we desire in life going off in our brain, and you can do it right now just by going like this. It's like it just feels good.
Why not do it, right? Why not do it? Jake, thanks so much, mate. I've appreciated this conversation. This is nothing but value. Where can we pick up Profit from Happiness?
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, dude. And yeah, any if you're in America, any Barnes and Noble, Canada, any chapters, online on Amazon, all those types of places. You can find it anywhere. On my website, jakeducey.com, DUCEY. Pretty much anywhere.
Yep, awesome. I was gonna say you got $1 million smile, man. We should start calling you Jake Smiles. Preston Smiles wouldn't like that, but Jake Smiles sounds good.
That'd be hilarious. When he comes back from Morocco, I'll change my Facebook name.
You should see what happens. Also, the front cover of your book, I love it. Your girlfriend Ashley drew that, right? She's an artist, and so I love that you involved her in that way. It's a great cover, man. The butterflies flying with the money. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I just wanted everything from the title of the book to the actual cover to just go against all of our belief systems, like butterflies, but their wings are money. So yeah, Ashley made it all. So props to Ashley. I think it's one of the prettiest covers or coolest covers I'd ever seen, and all props goes to her.
I do too. I've seen a lot of covers. I've read a lot of books, and this one is awesome, man. So, well done. All right. So, dude, we finish every interview with this question. I might have asked you maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I'm thinking 2 years now. Wow, it's going fast. I'm gonna ask you this question now, and just give it whatever comes up in the moment. But the question is, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
That last 30 seconds, and you asked me before, but it'd be funny to look back and see how much it changed. My last 30 seconds this time would be it would be to go outside and to find the first person that you see, whether they're in your home right now or whether they're outside or you have to go to the grocery store, and to stop and if there's someone you know, I want you to hug them. I want you to genuinely hug them, not for 2 seconds, not like this, oh, this is so uncomfortable, let me pat you on the arm really quick. Genuinely hug them and connect with them and realize that that's all you want in life. That's all a human actually wants and needs to be alive. That a baby will die unless its mother is touching them. That's what you want. That's what you need. And make sure in your pursuit to build $1 billion company and build an empire, do that, but don't neglect to connect and engage and give your love and presence to everyone you come in contact with.
Whew. You're on fire, mate. Yep, it's love, man. End of the day, it's love. Love and connection, man. That's what we're here for. You can do it through making money and building businesses that impact lives. You can do it through giving someone a smile down the road at the grocery store. Whatever it is, it's love, man. Love and connection. So thanks for bringing it back to that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, brother. Catch you later, man. All the best with your book, too. It deserves to be out there in as many hands as possible.
Thank you, dude.